Dragon Ball Z. You guys excited? Yeah, we got a great panel coming out here in just a couple minutes. Guys, we're going to ask, I'm your announcer, Scott, and we're going to ask for your cooperation. So even if you're not a Red Panda pass holder, come on here and fill up this middle sections right here, because that way we can have a great panel. The panelists can be up here and they can see you guys. So come on, and of course be polite and courteous as you're moving through those seats. And as you guys are moving, just remember some reminders. Please, no video or flash photography. And are you guys having fun at the first annual Planet Anime? All right, well, Planet Anime is brought to you by the same team that brings you Planet Comic-Con. How many people have been to Planet Comic-Con? All right, well, next year, March 8th through 10th, we have a very special year because this is the first Planet Anime, but anybody know how many Planet Comic-Cons there will be next year? 25, that's right. Well, you get a bonus. I don't have a bonus, but you get a bonus. But the 25th anniversary of Planet Comic-Con will be happening, and tickets go on sale on October 26th. So head to planetcomiccon.com and get your tickets for next year's Planet Comic-Con, and then we'll hopefully see you next year for Planet Anime again. All right, guys, just a couple other reminders. We have ADL seating to my left if you need that. And also, we ask for your cooperation on questions. Please line up at the mic and ask one question, and don't ask for anything like handshakes, hugs, or autographs. You can meet all of our voice actors and all our celebrities on Celebrity Row, and also check out all the great vendors there. You can get personalized photos with some of our talent, and you can also visit the Anime Entertainment Zone for crafting and cosplay demos. Okay, guys, are you guys Dragon Ball Z fans? Are you guys Dragon Ball Z fans? All right, we're going to have a great panel for you in just a couple minutes, but sit back, relax, and we'll be back in a flash with Dragon Ball Z. All right, you guys, we are getting ready for our panel. We got a special Dragon Ball Z panel. We got two guys from the Great White North here giving us their perspective on Dragon Ball Z. So let's give a big Planet Anime welcome for your moderator. You know her, and you've seen her on AEW Wrestling, Leva Bates.
Hey, hi. Hello, everyone. How's everyone doing today? I see a few of you back there. If you guys want to move up front, feel free. Come on up. Enjoy the show. So welcome to Planet Anime, Kansas City, Dragon Ball Z, Canada. We're going to get hyped, guys, because I have two awesome actors backstage, and we're going to have a lot of fun discussions. So before we get started, I do want to point out a couple things. This is a Q&A. Don't have to get up quite yet because I'm going to ask a few questions myself before we guys get you involved. But we want to get you guys involved. So to my right, there is a microphone. So, just line up, but keep your questions. No video requests, no picture requests. If you want to take pictures or videos with them, please feel free to visit at their table. If you're doing a voice request, usually we ask for only one request per panel. And yeah, let's just have fun. This is going to be a really good panel. We have a lot to talk about. Dragon Ball Z, life, sports, whatever you want to talk about. I just saw sports because I saw your shirt. So without further ado, I am going to bring out our two esteemed actors. I'd like to bring out Bryan Drummond and Brad Swaile. Hello, welcome. Please sit wherever you like.
Hello, everybody. We
Hiya.
made it through the weekend almost.
Almost.
It's been great. Our first time in Kansas City, and it's nice to be here. This is a little bit of a different panel with some
Couches.
Canadians and couches and Dragon Ball Z.
Or in Canada, Chesterfields.
Yeah, you ever heard that one before, Chesterfield?
Awesome. Well, thank you.
Where's our Canadian to American translator?
Any Canadians in the audience?
Yeah. What is the word oot in American?
Out.
I think it's is it
yeah.
toboggan? Is it with the hat?
Yeah, we just say oot. That's a toque. A
Toque.
toque is a winter cap.
A
We call
beanie.
it a toque.
Toque.
Beanie. Toque.
That's such a fun word.
Isn't it?
Toque.
Put your toque on. It's cold outside.
I actually got to go to Canada to wrestle a few times, and it's a lot of fun. Normally in the Toronto area. I don't
Yeah,
know.
yeah.
Where are you guys from compared to Toronto? Because I'll be honest, that's really all I've seen.
We're West Coast, so we're Vancouver,
So
which
Vancouver area.
is just
Okay.
above Seattle, basically. So,
So is
other
there
end.
like a West Coast versus East Coast going on in Canada, like it is in the United
Always
States?
Toronto
Yeah.
sucks. Sorry, no. We're mostly because in Canada we are hockey crazy people, and the Toronto Maple Leafs are garbage, and the Vancouver Canucks are also garbage, but we love them.
That's awesome. So there's a little bit of a rivalry. I'll be honest, I've only done Toronto and the East Coast, but I really enjoyed it. I loved it a lot. Like, everyone was very kind and polite, and I loved I don't know about Vancouver, but the public transportation, because I was taking the train and like the subway everywhere, and it was really easy to navigate. So I loved it. I was like, wow. If it was just a little bit warmer, I would probably go to Canada.
Well, Vancouver is warmer. That's where you should
It
go.
is? Oh, okay.
We rarely get snow. Like every year, we might just get a little bit. Once, if we have snow that lasts more than a couple of weeks in Vancouver, it's been a wintry, crazy winter. Like, that doesn't happen for us. We get rain through the winter, so it's cold but rainy. So you don't have to scrape it or shovel it. Toronto, they get snow. It's like here. Does Kansas City get a lot of snow in the winter? Yeah, no, we don't get that. And most people don't sort of assume when you're a Canadian, it's like, oh, you're from Vancouver, you must know my friend in Toronto. No. It's like talking to someone in New York City and asking, oh, you're from the U.S., I have a friend in New York, and you're talking to someone in L.A. You might know them. No, it's a huge country. It's thousands of miles away. We do not know people.
Do you know Dave in Canada? Oh, of course. There's only one Dave in Canada.
That's awesome. All right, so this is a anime convention. I see a lot of costumes out there. Maybe a few costumes out there. Halloween's around the corner. Are you guys dressing up in costume for Halloween or participating
Brad's
in
a
any
Halloween guy.
I'm a huge Halloween nerd, yes. So I, over the years, have done several Halloween costumes, and the one that really started it for me, has anybody heard of or played a game called Metal Gear Solid? Yeah? Okay. Woo! All right. So there was a Halloween one year where I was, me and a buddy of mine were renting a house, and we were having a big Halloween party, and so I wanted to make a costume, and I had been playing Metal Gear Solid, so I'm like, I'll do Solid Snake from Metal Gear Solid. And so I borrowed a sewing machine from my mom, and when I was in high school, I think I took something called life skills, which you had to take in grade 8, so it was like, a week and a half of sewing, a week and a half of wood shop, metalwork, electronics, all that kind of stuff. And I remembered from that 1 week of sewing that I did in the 8th grade how to get the thread through the machine, through the gauntlet that is the sewing machine. And I remembered that there was something called a bobbin that had to have thread as well. And I put that in there, and I made a costume, and it worked, and then it kind of went from there. And I've done some pretty ridiculous things over the years. But now, I started a family fairly recently, so I have a daughter who's 2.5 and a son who just turned 1. So my Halloween efforts are now switched over to them they're my little dress-up dolls for Halloween. So I'm very excited. I have lots of work to do because, like in, customary cosplay fashion, you're never finished your costume weeks or even days ahead of the event. It's always the night before or the morning of where you're still poking your fingers and doing all that kind of hot glue or whatever it is. So that'll be me next week.
And my kids are older. It's great when they're young, like Brad's are, because you can require them to be something, and they don't know what it is, but they also can't change their minds. 5, 6, 7, 8, that's where you're working on a costume for 2 weeks, and about 2 days before, I don't know if I want to be Spider-Man this year. I'm thinking Batman, and you're like, and you lose your mind, and you have to change the costume a couple days before because now they realize they can pick it and choose it, and it's nothing but tears. You're going to have to look forward to that. It's
this
coming.
Is the sweet spot right now.
It will come, yeah.
Awesome. What you have like plans for what they're going to be already, or are you still working that out?
I got plans. They're secret plans, but I'll tell you guys. You're not going to be up there. So, like I said, I'm a big Halloween nerd. So what I want to dress them up as isn't necessarily conducive to going out and trick-or-treating. So they're going to have multiple costumes. So for the going out and collecting candy, which my son can't eat, so it'll be my candy, so we want to get as much as possible. So my son is going to be Elvis Presley. Aloha from Hawaii via satellite, so jumpsuit Elvis, but like trim jumpsuit Elvis, not flabby jumpsuit Elvis. And my daughter is going to be Wednesday Addams. Okay, but the costumes that they're going to be in for the basically a little mini photo shoot, which is more for posterity, is from one of my favorite horror movies, and the only movie to this day that still freaks me out is a movie called The Shining. So my son is going to be Danny, and my daughter is going to be one of the creepy twins. And I'm just going to take Photoshop and make 2 of them.
Photoshop them.
So I have a lot of work ahead of me.
Yes, that's so good. What about you? Do you have any costume plans?
I don't have costume plans this year. I used to do a lot more when my kids were older, but I've got like 28, 25, and 22. Mine are all grown up, and they head out to parties. I mostly look forward to the candy handing out part, so I might, you vampire it up or a witch or something like that to hand it out. But I've been very disappointed. Last year was the first time I was quite super disappointed. But we used to live in a neighborhood. We've recently moved and sold a house to buy a condo in the city, a great area, and I walked all the studios that I record in. But I used to live in a really picturesque sort of neighborhood, actually, where they film a lot of the stuff they shoot in Vancouver, like all the films that they do in Vancouver. They do lots of sci-fi, and they do tons of Hallmark movies. So because it's a sort of Pleasantville type of roads, so people truck their kids in vans and dump them in our neighborhood, and then leave and come and pick them up. So we would have 600, 700, 800 kids a night. So just hundreds of kids. So it was, and I loved it. We would really spookify the whole exterior of the house. We had a very big front window, so we would put a sheet up on the inside and project Halloween movies on the window, so it was like a giant cinema for kids walking by on the outside. You could just park yourself and watch part of a Halloween movie. So I got into that aspect a lot and loved giving out candy and seeing all the costumes, and then we'd sort of do our own parties. But last year, when we were in the city in our new place, not one kid. Oh, it was so sad. I thought they would come down our street, but because it's kind of a busier area, and it's downtown, it's not where you'd probably drop your kids off. So at the end of the night, we had this huge bowl of candy. It had nothing to do, and we had a little gate to our place, and I went outside to pull the bowl in and go, I guess we're going to have to eat this ourselves. And I heard some teenagers just kind of outside the gate, just talking. They were probably on their way to a party, and I was like, I'm going to open the door, and saw them all, and they all had the munchies for some reason. You may know why, some people in the crowd, but they were right outside my gate, and I'm like, you guys want some candy? I'm pulling it all in, and it's all yours for the taking. And so they scooped it all up. They were also in costumes, so I got to see some, quote, kids in costumes that night and still get rid of my candy, so it was all good.
For 364 days of the year, the kids are told, do not fall for that trick. Yeah, hey, kids,
exactly.
You want some candy?
You want some candy?
Come on down. But that one night, it's okay. Well, now I know which neighborhood I'm going to bring my kids to, Because it sounds like your old neighborhood
It's a
is
great
flush
neighborhood.
with candy.
Yeah, it's a lot of candy.
Okay. Good to
That's
know.
hilarious. I'm a pro wrestler, and I wrestled on Friday. And part of my gimmick is like I'm a cosplay wrestler. So I wrestled as Oppenheimer last night or Friday night.
That's amazing.
It was in Denver for a comedy club. It's a comedy club that also runs wrestling shows. So it's like 2 matches, a comedian, another 2 matches, another comedian. So,
Oh, wow.
So I came out. I always do something silly. The month before, I did Ken from Barbie. So for some reason, I have to
There
do
you go.
cross.
You got to do the
crossplay for some
Barbenheimer.
reason.
Yeah,
I
you
don't
got to do
know.
them both. Nicely
Ken
done.
was so much more fun than Barbie in my brain, even though I now have the hair. But yeah, I did Oppenheimer. I even had the cigarette and everything. So I'm like, I'm gonna
Perfect.
post this online and get so like, because if you post anything with a cigarette nowadays, it's like, oh,
Perfect.
But
That
my-
show was the bomb.
ba-boom.
Ba-boom. No.
But
Boo.
but for Halloween, I'm either doing Pugsley, so I can match your
Oh, excellent,
Wednesday.
yeah.
Because I legit was shopping for Oppenheimer at Goodwill, and I saw a Pugsley-looking shirt, and I'm like, I'm just gonna hold this. You never know when I need a Pugsley costume.
Correct.
For like $3, and then, or I'm gonna do Waffle House Wendy. It's a meme. I don't know if you've ever seen the video. It went viral on like maybe a year or 2 ago, where there's a huge fight at Waffle House. A customer threw a chair at one of the employees. She catches the chair and then throws it off to the side like a badass.
Wow.
So, I mean, as a wrestler in me, I'm like, I feel like I have to do this
Waffle House
costume.
Wendy, you
So
have to.
I'm
That's
gonna
a
walk around with
persona.
a Waffle House uniform and maybe a chair if I can get a hold of it. So,
So
just
does
look like
eating
it.
waffles give you superpowers?
I think so.
All right.
That
I've
maybe
always
it's
hoped,
bacon.
but no.
So, so I'm not sure if you're allowed to talk about anything, but what are some of your projects you're working on now, or about to be working on, or just recently completed?
We are, yeah. Yeah. Some people are wonder with the SAG strike that's on right now. We're based in Canada, in Vancouver, Canada, so we are not part of the Screen Actors Guild there, and we actually run under a different animation agreement with the Union of BC Performers, which is where we're from. We're never allowed to talk about shows you're working on because we always sign NDAs on those. But there are some shows that are recently out and stuff that I have been working out on. Sonic Prime is probably one of the biggest one. There'll be another season of that coming out very soon, and Sonic Prime is a fabulous new Sonic series. And I get to play the wonderful Mr. Eggman on that one, Dr. Eggman, and a couple of other characters on it. I played Knuckles way back in the day, and on Sonic Underground. Back in 1999, 2000, I think it came out. One of the first times Knuckles ever appeared on television. Jaleel White, who was Steve Urkel, anybody saw the series that he used to do, Jaleel White played Sonic and Manic and Sonya on it, and I played Knuckles, who was in a few of the episodes. That was a blast. But now I am shaped a little more like Eggman, so they've decided I was more suitable for that role in the newest series. So I get to play Eggman now, and it's been an absolute blast, really fun to do. And I'm on a couple of really cool Lego series. Lego Ninjago has called Ninjago Dragons Rising is out, and another series called Lego Dreams, which is a new series that Lego has recently put out that are probably some of the newest projects that I've been working on right now.
I got a couple of video games that I worked on recently. I don't think I'm allowed to talk about them yet. And
No.
the majority of stuff that I've been working on lately is more preschool age shows for kids. So another one of those series that still hasn't come out yet, so I'm not allowed to talk about it. So I got to think about like what's kind of recent that you haven't heard of. I mean, there was a series that I worked on called Gigantosaurus, which was a Disney
So
affiliated
cute.
show, talking dinosaurs. That came. A game that came out, I think, fairly recently was New Tales from the Borderlands. I worked on that, and then a couple things that I don't think I'm quite allowed to talk about yet. So
It's tough with NDAs. You're always like trying to flip through your paperwork. Can I talk about it before it comes out? I usually wait until I know it's aired, and I'm like, okay, it's out. I'm allowed to say something because they are really touchy if you mention it before you're supposed to. All kinds of
Sucks to
hot
just sit
water.
on it. You're like,
Better to just sit on it until you know.
That's awesome. All right. Well, I know we have probably a few questions out here. If you guys want to ask any questions, we have a microphone right here. Please line up.
Even
and,
Dragon
ask
Ball
your
related ones
questions.
are
Come on
allowed.
up.
Ooh, the Saiyan Prince himself.
Hi. What's your name and what's your question?
Parkour. And
Question.
my question is, what was your favorite fight scene?
Oh, favorite fight sequence.
That's a good
There
question.
are great fight sequences, specifically between Vegeta and that clown Kakarot, that fool, that chump. He's a terrible father as well. But you know what? I loved his very first fight. It's probably the one because I remember working on it so much and how much yelling was involved. That's when I first realized how much screaming Vegeta had to do. Was his very first fight with Goku, with Kakarot. But when he turns Majin Vegeta, that's great. That's why I love this hat so much. A lot of people don't know, and it's always nice to clarify for the crowd in here. I'm the very first voice of Vegeta ever on Dragon Ball Z in North America. Started working on it in 1995, I guess. This crazy meme, it's over 9,000. That's the one that I unfortunately said that has stuck around for a while. But we worked on the show in Vancouver, BC, up through the Frieza saga. Probably, I don't know, 60, 70 episodes in. And then the producer moved the show decided to move the recording of the show. Once it started to get famous in the U.S., he decided to move it from Vancouver to Dallas, where he lived, because the producer was from Dallas. And he put an ad in the paper that said, "Can you sound like these voices from Dragon Ball Z?" And all the newer cast came in, voice matched us, and the show started again being recorded Funimation in Dallas. However, some American folks don't know that Ocean Studios, and some people know the work we did, has been called the Ocean Dub, the very first dub. We still had the rights, or not we, Ocean Studios still had the rights to Dragon Ball Z for all of Canada, like the UK, Ireland, some of Europe, so they had the rights to it. And we had a bit of a hiatus when it moved, but then we picked up again and finished all of the series of Dragon Ball Z. So if you grew up in Canada, you heard me as Vegeta for the whole series. I was not part of Dragon Ball Super, except for a small chunk when my good friend who plays Vegeta now, Chris Sabat, called me up and said, "Hey Brian, there's this fun role coming up where this alien copies all of Vegeta's powers in his look." And he was called Copy Vegeta. He looked kind of purple. I don't know if you remember that episode. And he took Vegeta's powers in Dragon Ball Super. Looked just like him, but Chris wanted my voice from the original Dragon Ball Z to be in a scene with his voice in Dragon Ball Super, and we kind of did this crazy sequence together, and the fans just loved it. And that was only 2 or 3 episodes of Dragon Ball Super that I did, but you won't have seen me much in Super, but a lot in Dragon Ball Z. But that was my favorite fight, was the first fight with Kakarot, and then when I went Majin Vegeta. That's phenomenal.
I like that there's practically a Dragon Ball Z multiverse.
Yes.
Because there's the original Canadian cast and then the U.S. cast and all kind of stuff. So I played Gohan in the Ocean Group dub of Dragon Ball Z, and some really good fights. Now, initially when Gohan starts out, he's littler, so he's actually voiced by a female voice actress. So that was not me. I'm not that good of an actor. But when he gets a little bit bigger, that's when I came in to do the voice. And my favorite fight is probably Gohan versus Super Boo. Now, because this is a Dragon Ball Canada, panel, and you had a great description of kind of how it all went down. So another thing that was interesting is how things aired in America versus how they aired in Canada were sometimes different because there were different regulations depending on which network was showing it on TV. So there were certain words that we didn't want going onto the network in Canada. So one of my favorite lines from that particular fight, the American recording is, "Fight you? No, I'm gonna kill you." We weren't allowed to say kill for the Canadian network. So that line became, "Fight you? Huh, I'm gonna destroy you." Kamehameha.
There it is.
No.
Some will probably remember we used to say, "Well, I'm going to blast you into another dimension, as opposed to send you to hell or whatever it may be. That was when there were regulations on what we're allowed to say, and it was very different. But it's fun to talk to the fans and see them go back, and when you did this part and you did that part and you sounded so much different and evil, and now you're kind of friends with Kakarot. What's going on? But it's been a blast to work on it. But what's your favorite fight?
My favorite fight is when you fighted Kakarot.
When I fought Kakarot. I wish I could beat him, though. He's so strong, but he's also so stupid. Good choice for a costume today, by the way.
You look incredible, by the way. That's
incredible.
amazing.
I love
It's
it.
bang on.
Hi, what's your name and what's your question?
Hi, my name's Chris, and I actually, going off of the copy Vegeta thing, so when I was in college, I would go to the general hanging out area because we didn't have cable, and seeing the dub for Super, hearing your voice come out of copy Vegeta, I sat up. I was like, there's no way they actually brought him back. And I was just curious what your time working with both Chris and Sean were, knowing that Funimation and Ocean came together for that mini arc.
Yeah, well, it didn't come together with Ocean, because Ocean is just a studio. I just had a text come from, and I didn't actually get to work with Sean or Chris, because when you dub, you just do your recording by yourself. You don't actually record with another actor while you're dubbing. You just do your lines. And I'm based out of Vancouver. Funimation currently records a show in Dallas. But Chris sent me the text about it. We got an agreement between Funimation and myself to work it out. I said, I can't get to Dallas to record it, and it's a different jurisdiction, and I work with a union in Vancouver, so I'm going to be doing it in Vancouver. And we worked it out, so I just used a studio in Vancouver, Cosmic Studios. We rented their space, and I recorded all of my dialogue over a 4-hour stretch with one of the directors from Dallas who was online, because he knew the rest of the show. So he was directing me from Dallas while I was in Vancouver, recording the show at a Vancouver studio, which was then sent back to them, and they put it all together with Chris's work and Sean's work, and everybody got to see the end product after the fact. But it was Chris who came up with the idea to do it to begin with. I didn't even know that story arc was coming, because I wasn't paying that much attention to Dragon Ball Super, but thank him for giving me a text and saying, Drummond, would you like to do this part? It'd be kind of fun.
Awesome, I really appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Hi, what's your name and what's your question?
Hello, my name is Craig, and my question is, what would be your guys' favorite Dragon Ball movie?
Oh, yeah, the one the Broly one, Resurrection, what was the one that just came out again? Resurrection, what's the one they just re-released? Yes, Battle of Gods is great, although the most recent one was fantastic too. I didn't get to see it in a theater. I waited until it came online for streaming, but it was great too. It's quite different because I worked on all of the Dragon Ball Z series, and the animation to me seems so drastically different when I think about the OG stuff that I worked on to when I'm sitting in front of my 4K TV watching the CG and the special effects of the latest movies and how cool it looks. It would be pretty, even though I have a real nostalgia for the older stuff, part of me would be like, I wonder what it would look like if those sequences were done with the newer style of animation. But I'd probably say, because of just the look of it, the most recent the theatrical release is to date probably my favorite, just because of the style and the look of the whole thing.
I like what you're talking about. Like, it's like going back and watching some of the first episodes of The Simpsons, which you don't necessarily remember looking as crappy as they do until they show up, at some point when one of those episodes pops on, you're like, oh my goodness, they all look so ill. It's hilarious.
Thank you.
Awesome,
So
thank you
much.
so much.
Hi, what's your name and what's your question?
My name's Leo.
Leo.
What is your favorite saga, like in the movie?
Well, because I was part of all of Dragon Ball Z, I always sort of pick it by my favorite villain, and I can't pick myself because when Vegeta first arrives, he's the villain. I love Frieza when he shows up, it's great, but actually and everybody has their debates about whether it's Boo or Frieza, but I love Cell. I don't know why. I love the visual of Cell. I love his transformations and the fight sequences with Cell. So my favorite is the Cell saga.
I'll change my answer every time I get asked this question, but like just for fun for now. When we were recording Dragon Ball Z, there weren't really many regulations as to how long you can hold a voice actor and make them scream. So we would have entire days of just screaming. So there were people that practically, if not actually, passed out in studio, because when you're doing a battle scene and then it cuts to commercial and then it comes back and you're still screaming and then it cuts to another commercial and then it comes back, meaning you have to scream that whole time. And if you're and you start to ramp down, cut, let's do it again. So you're doing these multiple times. So long roundabout way to get to my point. The Saiyan Man saga was a nice little departure from screaming maniacally, where suddenly Gohan got to pretend to be a superhero and have some fun with that and be in disguise and whatever. So today, right this second, that was one of my favorites because it gave my voice a rest.
Nice. Thank you. Good questions.
Great shirt, too.
So I know with COVID, like remote recording has become more of a regular thing, and even after COVID lifted and a lot more remote recording is going on here. Is that the same in Canada, or now that everything's been lifted, are you guys going back more to the studios, or how is that all working out for
Yeah,
you
we're
guys?
getting back in the studios. Good question. It's dubbing was always kind of easy because you just record by yourself, literally in an isolation booth, right? You're closed in there on your own. So we were still able to dub and record through COVID because all they did was they kind of spaced out the times that the performers could come in. So you're locked in your isolation booth, and sometimes the directors would maybe Zoom in instead of be in the session, and the only person on the other side of the isolation booth was an engineer running all the sound cues for you. Once you left the isolation booth, they might have a 15-minute break and have special air filtration system that was in there to clean out the space. They wiped down the microphones, they changed out the headsets, they changed the pop guard on the microphones, and then the next actor would come in. And so it slowed things down a little bit, but we were still able to work on the shows.
And with a lot of anime projects, sometimes you'll never have an actual in-person interaction with the other actors that you've been working with for 52 episodes, unless you kind of pass your paths kind of cross in the hallway or in the lounge or whatever. Yeah. And so one thing that changed is now you're basically told to wait in your car. You'll get a text message, and then you would come on up. So there wasn't that kind of interaction.
Right.
But the actual recording process was quite similar to what we had been doing recording anime, for our entire careers. It's just suddenly you're working on a prelay series, and they're bringing in one actor at a time, which is, for a lot of people, that was kind of a departure. But for us who had, a lot of experience recording anime, it wasn't really a huge deal. It's never as fun when you have an opportunity to work with a cast in the same room and you're suddenly not allowed to.
Yeah,
anymore.
we call that a prelay show, when you get to work with the whole cast, like on Sonic Prime, which I work on. We were able to be in a group, or the Ninjago series, or Gigantosaurus. Maybe you did some
X-Men, Barbie, My Little Pony, all those ones.
Sometimes there can be 10, 12 actors all in a room. We all get the whole script, and then you get to do the whole scenes together, which is really fun. I would have loved to record a Dragon Ball Z or some of these shows like that.
That would be crazy.
Where you're right across from, the actor playing Kakarot. You could literally, it's like you're delivering the line right to them, but we never get to do that in dubbing. You just have to make believe that they exist and just scream into a microphone as if they're there, but they're not there.
Yeah, I worked on a show called X-Men Evolution, and that was a real treat because you had the entire cast in the room. So
who did you play?
I played Nightcrawler in X-Men Evolution. Woo! Thanks. Right on. But it's cool when you're in a room and, Sabretooth is there and Wolverine, and they're having a battle, and all these other guys, and Gambit shows up and all that. And there's a bunch of different microphones in the room, and everybody's kind of got their individual mic. And if you can imagine somebody standing in front of a microphone and doing a battle scene, they're not standing like this and fighting. Especially if you're Scott McNeil as Wolverine. You got the claws out. You can all like snicked, all that kind of stuff. So that was a lot of fun on X-Men. I could only imagine what that would look like if you have a bunch of Super Saiyans going
Everybody
nuts
would
in
be
a
just,
booth, man. Yeah.
you know, just screaming.
Everything would be broken and destroyed. But it'd be fantastic to
It
witness.
would be a very loud room. Everybody would be turning their headsets down because of the amount of screaming. We have a question here.
Hey guys.
Hi, what's your name and what's your question?
Yes, my name is Mario. I got a quick question for you guys. How did you guys start your voice acting career?
How did we start voice acting? By accident a bit. Well, yeah, it's not because most people, maybe now. I think now it's very different. There are people now, it's like, I want to be a voice actor, and they head just to that career. They have no interest in any other kind of acting. They just want to do voices. I wasn't like that. I wanted to be on Broadway and do movies and all that kind of stuff. I went to a great theater school that I managed to get into in the city of Vancouver, where I'm from. Graduated from there in 1991, and I was doing stage shows there and a lot of film and TV in Vancouver. So X-Files, Stargate, Smallville, Battlestar, lots of sci-fi, lots of stuff was shot there. But I would always I never booked leads on those shows. I'd get 1, 2, 3, 4 days here and there on all those things. So I was working, but as an actor, you're always some form of struggling, it would feel like. But I started to drop away from theater because I had a young family, and theater is wonderful, but it does not pay very much. I like doing film and TV, but I wasn't consistently booking a ton of it, so I wanted to find more, and I heard about this voiceover industry that was really blossoming and starting to explode in the city of Vancouver. Vancouver, probably second only to LA, was one of the busiest markets for voiceover in North America for English animation. And I stumbled into an audition for a mainframe series called Reboot. I don't know if anybody heard of that series way back in the 90s. I did not get a role on it in my first audition, but I got a role in my very next audition on a show called G.I. Joe Extreme. And I played one of the leads on G.I. Joe, and I got my next audition as well, which was Vegeta on Dragon Ball Z.
My story is not that dissimilar. I have a sister who's a year older than me, and she got bit by the acting bug in elementary school. We had a really great music / whatever teacher that would put on some kind of a musical production for the entire elementary school every year. And at one point, my sister was old enough that she could audition for one of the lead roles, and she got it, and she loved it. So now, jump to us in high school, and she got mixed up with a place called the Vancouver Youth Theatre, and I got jealous, so I just kind of followed in her footsteps. And there was an agency right across the street that would kind of watch the kids that were coming through, and they approached us at one point and said, hey, would you like to join the agency? We'll start sending you out on auditions for movies and TV shows and commercials and stuff. And we were like, okay, we'll win Academy Awards. Of course we want to do that.
Woohoo, famous.
Yeah. And so we started off doing exactly what you're saying, on-camera stuff or whatever gigs you can get. And then it led to my first audition for a cartoon, and it was a show called My Little Ponytails, and I got it. And suddenly I realized that, voice acting
Gohan
is a thing.
was a pony?
No, this was prior to Gohan. But yeah, and it kind of went from there. And eventually I was in college, and I called the agency and I said I didn't want to do on-camera stuff anymore because I hated it. I love being on set, like all of that was great, but the whole system and process leading up to kind of getting on set was just, my skin wasn't thick enough for it. Like I think the last on-camera thing that I did, I was reading for a lead in a feature film, and got called back and all that kind of stuff, and then eventually found out that I didn't get the part, but they gave me another role in the movie, and I'm like, oh, that's very nice, awesome, and it turned out it was one line, and it was drunk guy in bathroom, and where we filmed it was in an actual decrepit nightclub bathroom. And so I filmed the scene, and then I called my agency the next day and said, I'm done with that, let me just do voice.
I was up for a lead in this.
Yeah, it was kind of brutal. But the voice stuff I love so much that I will continue to do it as long as I can get even little pockets of work here and there. And opportunities like this are such an incredible perk from being lucky enough to work in the voice industry. So thank you for watching
Traveling
and
and
supporting
meeting
us.
you guys is
Incredible.
amazing. All the new cities, our first time here, and everybody is so cool. It's been so great.
You guys have been fantastic this weekend.
This has been a great weekend.
I hope you appreciate how awesome you are.
Thank you,
Yeah,
guys.
got to
For you guys, yeah, absolutely.
Oh, we got a couple more questions.
Hi, what's your question? What's your name?
I'm Harry, and I was wondering, do you think Vegeta should have stayed a villain?
Do I think Vegeta should have stayed a villain? Wow, that's a good question. No. And the reason why is because he's a great anti-hero, and I think he wouldn't have been in as much of the series if he did stay a villain, because any show that goes on as long as hundreds of episodes like Dragon Ball Z, you have to have more villains. You can't just be fighting the same guy. Unless you're Inspector Gadget and it's Dr. Claw, that's the only guy. you have to move through new villains. So he might have gone away and then reappeared later and whatnot, but I loved getting to play him when he was just straight villain, but I also love when a character has a story arc that allows them to change and learn. I think that's why, to me, why Vegeta is such a popular character, because he changes so much over the course of Dragon Ball Z, and definitely through Super. He turns into a much different person. Still holds on to a lot of his Saiyan pride, his ego, his attitude, but the reasons why he does stuff changes, and that makes him just sort of a lovable anti-hero to me.
It's a really good question, and I think, for a lot of characters, the ones that are the most interesting to play or watch or enjoy or be fans of usually are not black and white. There's usually a lot of shades of gray in between. And because of our lovely host today, I'm automatically jumping into wrestling. And there's a lot of wrestlers that started off as the face and then became the heel and then became the face again. And you can think for certain personas, especially in wrestling, if they're the same character throughout, you kind of lose interest. Sometimes you got to spice things up a bit and have them kind of jump around. Now, in other instances, there are certain characters or wrestlers or whatever where some changes are made that you don't exactly love. Like when Andre the Giant became a heel, to me, he was always a face, right? So it's tricky. Sorry, I'm crossing genres here, but you kind of got my brain going. Yeah. It's a good
Thank
question.
you. That's
I
a
like
great
it.
question.
Thank you.
Thank you. And this will be our last question. What's your name and what's your question?
Hi, my name is Nathan. I've been voice acting for about 4.5 years now.
Nice.
Every project I work on, I'm excited to get a new take and kind of a new perspective. What's the hardest line you've ever had to read, deliver? Just something about it was not kind of meshing well with you. What's the hardest line you've ever had to deliver?
That's like in Dragon Ball or in
Any.
Oh wow! Well, we've done thousands of episodes of animation. The hardest ones probably are usually a tongue twister. That just sometimes I remember being on a show and I can't even remember what it was, and almost getting at a point where I'm well into my career and very established, but there was something I just kept stumbling over and it couldn't come out of my mouth, and I was almost getting embarrassed. I'd probably said it 20 times and I couldn't get the words in the order they had them put together. And when on the other side of the glass, when the writers and the directors start looking at each other and they're going, I think we're gonna have to rewrite the line, Drummond can't say this. Then I'm like, man, I'm not doing my job. That's probably the worst. I can't even remember what the line was. But other than that, Dragon Ball is one of the hardest shows to do, by far, because of the amount of screaming. It is so hard to yell that much. It's one of the toughest things when this is your instrument and you're basically told to just thrash it and destroy it. It's like, oh, I know you're a guitar player. I'd like you to beat your guitar against that amp over there and destroy it so you can't even play it next week. That's kind of what Dragon Ball Z was to us. So it was really hard. It's the only show I've ever lost my voice on 2 times. And when I say lost my voice, I still remember after a Dragon Ball Z session going out for dinner with my family and writing what I wanted down on paper, because it was like, it wasn't quiet voice, it was, I can't say anything. It was gone from screaming that day. And that's what Dragon Ball Z will do to you. Just remember this.
It is interesting because there are physical limitations to certain lines that can, be difficult, and then there's mental limitations. And I've encountered both of those. And again, like you don't really remember so much, but a couple that I can think of is, so I worked on a video game called Street Fighter versus Tekken, and I played Jin Kazama, which was awesome for me. To get to audition and then get cast was amazing. But I had to fly myself down to Los Angeles, so I did that entire video game in one session. So it was just all of the stuff all at once, all the time, no breaks, because I had to go and then get back on a plane or whatever. So that was difficult, but rewarding. There's also a series that I worked on called Black Lagoon, where my character is like moderating a mob boss meeting. So I had to speak Japanese, and I do not speak Japanese. So I had to really invest a lot of time and energy trying to get the pronunciations of all this Japanese dialogue. And of course, I had producers and clients that were scrutinizing it as I did it. So I might think it sounds perfect, and then they're like, no, Brad, let's do it again. So difficult, but again, very, very rewarding when you get through those things. And like a Dragon Ball session, even if you pass out a couple times, by the time you're done, if the work is great, then you can kind of pat yourself on the back and then go to the emergency room.
Now, before we go, who wants to hear this famous line by Vegeta? Okay, so, since we're talking about screaming, we got to throw one out there. Now, since we have a voice actor here, do you know what Nappa says to Vegeta before Vegeta says that line?
I do not remember that
I will
line.
tell it to you as the voice actor. And you just got to do that sort of, hey, Vegeta, the big, deeper voice. Here's the line is, hey, Vegeta, what does the scouter say about his power level? Let's rehearse it once. Let's see.
Hey, Vegeta, what does the scouter say about his power level?
That's pretty good. Not a bad Nappa. Okay, so with just a little more energy, because Kakarot has landed in front of us. We're starting to get a power reading on his on the scouter, and you say,
hey, Vegeta, what's the scanner say about his power level?
Oh, he dropped the ball. Scouter, not scanner. What does the scouter say about his power?
Hey, Vegeta, what's the scouter say about his power level?
It's over 9,000!
Woo!
And let the fighting begin. Go kick his butt, Nappa. Which he doesn't.
Thank you, guys. Are you signing more today?
Yeah, we're down there for about another hour and a bit before we got to catch flights back to Vancouver. So if there's anything you want, or you want to add another question you didn't get to here, come down to where all the voice actors are, down in the Artist Alley area down there, and we'll be there for at least another hour plus. All right. Thanks so much, everybody.
All right,
Thanks, everyone.
You guys.
Thank you, Kansas City.
This was Bryan Drummond and Brad Swaile. Give it up to them, guys. Thank you guys so much.